just jumping right in, or what are we doing?
Well, we can just jump right in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guess what? I heard America is turning 250.
It is.
I thought there was supposed to be like a year-long party,
You know,
but it's really just become this like, I don't know, 4th of July again.
yeah.
It doesn't seem like.
I know. I was noticing the same thing.
I mean, they had an MMA match in front of the White House.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody wanted to watch that. Yeah, I've noticed the same thing. It's just kind of like it seems like there was a lot of talk about this buildup. I don't know, maybe. Well, there's a lot going on right now. I mean, we have the World Cup happening.
What is that?
Oh, I know. Is
this a sporting event of some kind?
There's a sport. It involves a ball, and you kick it with your feet.
Is it football? Because that's a sport.
Yeah, football, and with F-U-T, football. Yeah.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Soccer.
I've heard of this game.
I know, yeah, you hate it. But yeah, we got that going on. And
Okay.
Then, and then there's all the world events. I don't know, it just feels like the 4th of July 250-year celebration hasn't gotten much airtime. Maybe it's going to start. Maybe the 4th of July will kick off the party, and then it'll be for the following year. Like
Maybe.
a Jubilee year we celebrate in the church.
Yeah,
maybe that's what's going to happen.
I'm waiting. I mean, it seems, I don't know. I'm a little bit, maybe the problem is cynicism. There's too much cynicism. And I can fall into that because I'm a little bit cynical or skeptical that America has the ability as a whole to slow down enough to enjoy it. I just don't think we're not generally a people who can kind of, here's somewhere I heard that in August, almost the entire month of August, the entire country of Italy kind of just shuts down.
Yeah, it does.
And they go into like vacation or holiday.
Yeah.
And they either go to the coast or they go up to the mountains.
Yeah.
The entire month. It's like, let's just take August off.
Yeah.
I can't even
imagine
conceive of that happening here.
Yeah.
Like,
that's all over Europe, actually, or Western Europe anyway. Yeah.
It's crazy. I just don't think we have the ability to
rest,
stop and enjoy, like smell the roses and enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we should.
We're going crazy.
I mean, it is a big deal, and I remember the 200th celebration. Back in the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
I was very memorable. It was a big deal. Like I remember what a big deal that was.
I was only like 2. How old were you? Like 12, 20?
7.
Oh, 7.
Yeah,
okay.
it was memorable. I mean, I lived on this place. Well, it's called Yarrow Point.
Okay.
Now they call it Yarrow Point because it's
apparently more.
It's very swanky now. But when I was growing up, it wasn't. And it was a nice little community. We had a parade and like a street dance and live music, and we had these there are these 2 points, Yarrow Point, Hunts Point, and there are all these for the whole week of the 4th of July. There was always like these competitions, and there was like a tennis tournament and a running race and a tug of war across the bay between
a tennis tournament to celebrate 200 years.
No,
of America?
It was just like 4th of July, every year. So I just remember because in 1976, it was like a really big year. It was very memorable.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it'll happen here too.
It's funny you say that because I do remember a lot of photos from 1976 where my dad had a super long beard. There was like a wagon that was painted red, white, and blue that was horse-drawn. That there was a massive parade in our hometown. And
wow, and you remember this at the age of 3?
I think I'm probably remembering more from the photos than anything else.
Right. Yeah.
But it was
sense.
Like, everybody sort of dressed up. I remember there was a lot of people dressed up in kind of colonial outfits, Yeah. I just don't sense
that same
the celebration.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. I mean, the reason why I think it's a good topic is because it is a big deal that we're 250 years old, and historically, while America is such a young country, uh, we've we've accomplished a lot in 250 years, and I think what's so unique about us is that we weren't as a nation formed kind of out of an ethnic, sort of tribal group that just
Mm-hmm.
kind of consolidated power over time and became kind of a nation of like comprised of an ethnic group, but we were founded on a set of ideas and principles that we're trying to live. But I think maybe part of the reason why it I don't know, I feel like the feeling in our country these days and the tone of everything in our country is not positive. It's just overall, it's not positive. It's like it's negative, and
Yeah.
even some of the quote unquote patriotism that we've experienced more from maybe the right or the far right, that's even been dampened because a lot of people are frustrated with Trump's involvement in Iran. So it's like I don't know. I feel like there's this kind of like heavy
Yeah.
cloud, and I
Right.
I hope that breaks because it would be nice to actually come together as a country and celebrate and enjoy the fact that it's a big year of celebration. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a big memorable commemoration.
Yeah.
I combine those two words. Kind of year. So
Yeah. I came across a really cool quote from John Adams.
really,
Yeah. He was one of the founders
yeah.
of our country.
Were you reading this?
Well, I just looked up really cool quotes from our founders.
Okay.
But this is a really good one, and I think this speaks a little bit into maybe like what is going on where there's not this overwhelming sense of like joy and celebration in our country, because it is a milestone year. But he said our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people.
Yeah,
And I feel like
it's a very famous quote.
okay, it's the first time I ever heard it, but I feel like that's we're in a real sort of I think people would be like, "Oh, we're in a political crisis right now," and it's true. There's a lot of division, but I feel like more so we're experiencing like a real spiritual crisis
Yeah,
in our country. Like I think the country is not just divided politically, but we are divided morally and religiously. Like
yeah,
there's just not a strong sense. There's not a strong religious sense.
yeah.
And if it is, it's not anchored. It's not anchored very deeply.
Right.
Like it's very superficial.
Yeah.
I'm that is such a blanket statement and very general, but it's just my sense. Like we can't really we're not in a lot of agreement morally or religiously in this country. Like it's
Yeah. Well, and I definitely think that like the culture on a popular level, the culture is very much moving and working against the founding principles of our country and the kind of core value system or belief system that really defines us as a people and makes us a great nation. A lot of that's being undermined and corroded today, even if it's not a left-right thing. There's like a level of materialism and consumerism,
oh
and
yeah.
we're so caught up with the latest, little shiny toy that distracts us. And it is a good year to, to actually reflect on and think about what, like, I think as a people, we need to really think about what are the foundations of this country and what has made this country great. And I think one of the things that bothers me always is like when I see like people who have the luxury to critique and hate our country.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't realize that you wouldn't be able to do this in most of human history ever without having your life seriously threatened or even
Yeah.
being killed for that.
Yeah.
And so there's a lack of gratitude and appreciation for all that we take for granted here in this country, the freedom, the sense of safety and security. Um, and we kind of can sometimes, I think, as a people, you know, live out of a place where we might be a little spoiled in the
Oh
sense that
yeah.
we just take it for granted. And so that's, I think there's a Christian virtue which we oftentimes don't think of as a virtue, but it's the virtue of, we call it piety, but the civic form of piety is patriotism.
Mm.
And patriotism, I think, has been defined today as a kind of like, wave your flag, tell everybody that we're so much better than you,
It's kind of confused with nationalism.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's this kind of like, we're the best, and we're
Yeah.
gonna flex all over you because we're the best and
Mhm.
we're awesome, and
Yep.
and if you don't act that way, then you don't love your country. And I think that really a true sense of patriotism is a spirit, first and foremost, of deep gratitude for all that your nation has given,
Yeah.
to make the context of your life a possibility, whether that's culture, language, customs, laws, schools, roads, all of these
Yeah.
things that we have. And we can spend all of our time being kind of critical politically rather than being thankful
Yeah.
for all we have. And I just am always amazed, like when I stop and I pay attention to what's going on in the rest of the world and thinking about what people suffer
Mm.
right now, and I'm thinking it's so amazing that we aren't, we're not, we're not at war,
Right.
dealing with, I mean,
Yeah.
on our
In our
homeland.
country.
Like we're not being
Yeah.
bombed. We're not
Right.
we're not at civil war. We're not dealing with massive poverty or, a massive drought or you know what I'm saying?
Oh
Like,
yeah. Yeah.
so
I think it's hard. I think people might be, and again, this is really where like your treasure is where your heart is. Like, is that right? Your heart.
yeah,
Yeah.
where your treasure is, there's your
Yeah,
heart.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like people's heart is really into some of those things that you mentioned, like materialism, consumerism. Like, so for a lot of people, it's hard to have this sense of celebration or gratitude when your heart is most interested in your financial. It's hard. We're in a financial difficult time right now. Like,
Yeah,
it seems like everything, the cost of everything has increased by like 300%. So like what a normal dollar would have, gotten us a few years ago is just, it's, so I feel like people are like, yeah, well, why do I want to celebrate whenever I'm paying $4.50 a gallon in Pennsylvania for gasoline? It's like higher in other places. Or your groceries cost twice what they did like last year.
it's not quite that bad, but
It feels like it.
yeah, it does feel like it. Well, but I mean, not to counter that, but like relative to what? It's like
Relative what we normally
what we're used to
experience.
or
Yes,
accustomed to. And
right.
what we're used to and accustomed to is the result
Mhm.
of so many of the wonderful things that our country has done well over the years. So if we're starting to lose some of that, the answer is not to complain, but to double down on the principles that made our nation such that we could drive a car at 80 cents a gallon, like when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Like
Let's
you
go
know what I'm
back
saying?
to
I mean,
the
there's just
200,
yeah.
the times of
Yeah, I mean,
1976.
it's, you think about, the respect for human rights and this dignity of human life and the sense of unity we had around everybody, being endowed with these rights and a certain sense of equality and participation and access to the marketplace and the opportunity to better yourself, all of these kinds of things that have made America great. We're subtly abandoning those principles and then complaining that life isn't as good as it used to be. So
Yeah.
that's sort of my point. It's like, you're right. I mean, it's a little bit tougher, but still relative to what? I mean, again, it's like, yeah, I mean, it hurts at the gas tank, but like I'm not driving less than I did.
Yeah.
I'm where I'm cutting, you know, I'm cutting, into things that we take for granted as necessities of life, when the reality is most of what we consider to be necessities have not been necessities for almost all of human history.
Mm.
So it's like, oh gosh, it cost me $300 to fix my zero-turn mower to mow my
Woe is
acre of
you.
grass,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, well, it must be nice to have a zero-turn mower and a lawn to mow. Like, it's that, like, I'm just saying that we need to change the story in our heads. And I'm
Yeah.
always trying to do this in my own house. Like, it's like, okay, yes, I know. It's like, what happened the other day? I got up the other day, I couldn't get the deadbolt to open on our back door. And I was like so frustrated. And I'm like,
This
oh
country
my gosh,
sucks.
I'm gonna have to fix this.
Yeah.
I'll probably have to get a locksmith in here and or buy a new deadbolt. And anyway, I fixed it. I was able to fix it. But the point is like,
You just had the key in the wrong way.
no, it was like it was stuck. It needed some WD-40, and I took it apart and kind of cleaned it and
Oh,
put it back
wow.
together. I know, I was so proud of myself.
Mm.
But anyway, my point is like, to even have a reaction
Yeah.
is dumb.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it's just like we're so soft. That's what I'm saying. So
No, you're right. Spoiled is a good word.
yeah, we take so much for granted, and then if you just watch the news and you look at other parts of the world and you see what they're dealing with, you're like, oh my gosh, like we deserve nothing but to be grateful.
Mm.
And that was actually a reading this morning that I did in the office of readings this morning. It was that passage. I think it's Psalm 50. It's either Psalm 50 or 30. Can't remember. But it's just like, I don't want your bull offer, your sacrifices.
Mhm.
Give me thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And in your day of tribulation, lean on me and rely on me. Like, seek help from me. And it's kind of like that's a great reminder that when we look around, as Americans, and we deal with inconveniences or struggles and challenges, that we should just be thankful.
Yeah.
And we should rely on those timeless principles and values that come from Scripture ultimately.
Yeah.
That's where we got those values from. And double down and be truly patriotic, which means let's be the generation that reinforces and strengthens those principles and works towards always the things that have made this nation a great nation, and keep working towards those things.
Yeah, that's, the whole patriotism thing for me, gratitude, like a truly patriotic spirit, I think, is one that's, like you said, rooted in gratitude, and also like a sense of stewardship,
Exactly.
that you have this stewardship and responsibility,
Yes.
And versus like a national, like you were saying, a nationalist mindset, which is like moral superiority, or like like thinking in ideological or absolutes and things like that. And maybe I don't know how we cultivate or recultivate that sense, like, of stewardship, responsibility. It just, maybe that's tied in with all the isms, like when you buy into more of like a consumerist mentality or a materialist mentality, you sort of, you have this expectation that everything should be given to you.
Well, right, like everything's about my personal satisfaction.
Right.
And, to quote another president of the United States,
Okay.
who happened to be Catholic, ask not what your country will do for you, but what you will do for your country.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like the church has this principle, it's called participation. There's a couple of principles of Catholic social teaching that I think are super relevant. Participation, which is ultimately, on the one hand, it's a right to be able to participate, but it's also a responsibility to contribute to, the building up of our country and handing on to the next generation something that's slightly better than what we received.
Yeah.
And certainly America has failed over the years in big and small ways, but that doesn't make the ideas that we believe in wrong. It just makes our attempt at living those ideas, those principles, imperfect. But the other one is the right of association. And I think that that's a really important principle now that we're missing out on, because our right of association, that is to gather together, and to build mediating communities within our commonwealth in a way that's not ideological or political. And we've politicized that, and it's made it very divisive.
Yeah.
And so now there was the big kerfluffle just this past week about, there was, I think it was the Dodgers did some pride night, and there was a big kerfluffle over that. And then there was another team that decided it wasn't going to do that, and there was a big kerfluffle. Like, baseball should be unifying to the country. It shouldn't be politicized.
Yeah.
So the right of association, that is to have a baseball team and to be identified with that, is something that should build up the national unity, not tear it down. So the right of association is it's a right, but it's a responsibility that when I gather in a group, in a civic group, I'm building up the Commonwealth, because I'm our group is adding something, or creating something that builds community, builds fellowship and connection around common purposes and common practices, common enjoyments, and things like that. But again, we've politicized, we've let ideology, drive a wedge between all of these different groups, and it's shame on us. That is so un-American. It's so un-American. The whole what's so great about America is precisely the fact that we take diverse people and we find places that make us one nation.
Yeah.
And God is a big part of that, one nation under God. We believe that, God has blessed all human beings with these rights and this dignity. And it doesn't matter what language you speak. It doesn't matter what race and ethnicity you are. It doesn't matter what social class you belong to. Right. We're one people because we believe in this value system that is universal, and we can coexist with a profound degree of tolerance and acceptance of our differences, precisely because we are united in a common set of values. But see, our ideologies lately are bringing those shared values into question.
Yeah.
And it's dividing us.
Yeah, I feel like that's a big part of that is if it was just left organically, obviously the government just sort of provides the opportunities for people to kind of, form alliances or find communities within communities and stuff like that. I feel like it's the difficulty, or where it seems to be rubbing or hitting the, a nerve, is this sort of external forced, acceptance of everything or everyone. That sounds really bad. But what I mean is, why does it, why can't you just have a baseball game? Why does there have to be any sort of external, this baseball game is specifically for this group of people, this night. Just have a baseball game, and then, because then what ends up happening, people do naturally have moral differences, they don't see everything as morally ambiguous, religious people who take their faith seriously do have issues with the promotion of certain moral things. And it's whenever you as a faith-filled person feel like something is being forced upon you, by somebody else, that's where it creates unnecessary conflict. Why can't any identifying group just go to a baseball game without having to,
and even if you want to you want to virtue signal with your branding,
Sure,
You know,
right.
where you're, yeah, I mean, just come to the game, and if you want to dress up with whatever your paraphernalia is, go
Yeah,
for
yeah.
it. Yeah, you're making a really good point about how when we embrace an ideology, we we create a kind of like how do I say this? Like we create an ideology which we impose on people in a kind of forceful way, and use the language of organic. Like what the government should do is create like the conditions for the spontaneous and organic development of associations.
Sure.
And everybody, in our best sense, everybody's okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Where it gets weird is when you feel like the government is now imposing a certain value system on you. Now, here's what I would say. Sometimes people feel like, well, the Judeo-Christian foundations of America make me feel oppressed because you're imposing your values. But it's like, okay, but here's the difference. It's the Judeo-Christian, or I would say even more so, it's the Christian view of things in its best sense that creates a political environment of tolerance that
Mm-hmm.
allows you as an atheist or, to actually coexist
Yeah.
and thrive and
Right.
flourish within this environment.
Right.
Whereas if you go to other parts of the world, you do not see Islamic countries doing that.
Right.
You don't see communist countries doing that. They completely impose a mass uniformity and
Mm-hmm.
conformity on everybody from the top down. And the United States of America has started to do that, and it's so un-American.
Yeah.
And it is, and you can say what you want. We don't force you to believe in Christianity. But Christianity is the first religious, and you could say the outgrowth of the political systems that have grown out of Christianity are the only systems in the history of the world that don't require that kind of absolute conformity.
Mm-hmm.
There's a level of tolerance for the diversity of the pursuits of, and that's why, we say, that we have the right to the free pursuit of, life,
Yeah.
liberty, and happiness.
Yeah.
At least within a certain boundary
Mm-hmm.
of reason to pursue those things as we see fit. And that's what's unique about our political system, is that we agree on this set of principles so that there is sufficient latitude of difference, and diversity
Yeah.
that people, all these different ethnic groups, all these different religious groups can live in the same commonwealth and actually get along fine
Yeah.
with each other. And that is going away. Like, we're undermining that.
Yeah. So that makes me think of a couple of things. The scripture verse of seeking first the kingdom, right? I feel like what needs to happen more often, or to be more embraced by particularly Christian people, is like there's a lot of you mentioned earlier that sort of this patriotism, or at least a version of patriotism, is so often associated with the right, like with conservative people who generally tend to be like more on the
It didn't used to
religious
be.
side, right? Christian people.
It didn't used to be.
Right. So, but it's almost like if you go to certain events or observe sometimes people, they have an overwhelming like pride and zeal for the country, right? But they don't express the same kind of pride and zeal for their faith, for the kingdom of God.
Right.
So it's like, it seems really imbalanced. Like we have to, and scripture says, like, seek first the kingdom. So I think what I would love to see are people who are first and foremost people who are almost like visibly or tangibly motivated, excited by fulfilled by their faith first and foremost, and then sort of like their approach to their love of country and just kind of flows from that, versus the other way around. Like, and I feel like that's part of the problem, is that I think that it's getting all skewed because of that, you know.
Yeah. I mean, there's always a temptation of a kind of inversion of values where country, nation, ethnicity, the particular gets priority over the universal. And that's always a challenge. It's been a challenge in the whole history of Christianity even, you know. It's what safeguards the local and the particular custom, culture is precisely an adherence to the universal. Like, there are certain things that are universally true
Yeah.
of all people, our dignity, made in the image and likeness of God, our rights, those kinds of things. That's what creates the conditions within which I can say, and therefore, if you practice a different faith than me, then I should respect your legitimate pursuit of happiness along that lines, as long as you're not like, grossly violating the natural law,
Sure.
which is that universal thing, But yeah, I mean, so I think putting God first in the right way is exactly how those other things find their proper place and security. But I also think, too, the other thing that I see happening is that people will conflate their love of faith with the love of their country.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some people
Yeah.
that have a kind of Americanist sort of Christianity where it's like, to be an American or to be a Christian is to be an American, as though America is God's idealized form of Christian political civic life. And it's like, that's like too far. But then
Yeah.
there's the other extreme, which is in the love of my Christian faith, and we see this more and more, I think, on the left, is it means I have to hate my country,
Yeah,
and
right.
America's evil, and it's this big bad thing that has to be radically transformed and changed and even replaced. And it's like, well, okay, you don't know our history then very well. Both of those extremes, I think, are dangerous.
Yeah.
I think the proper, and when I said a minute ago, it's like it hasn't always been that way, meaning it hasn't always been a patriotism on the right and not the left. I mean, that's why we were back in 1976, Democrats and Republicans alike came together and celebrated this country.
Yeah.
We all loved this country incredibly, but we had slightly different variations on what great meant and how we would solve our national problems. But it's just become so deeply divided today, and I think that that's because we've either been conditioned to hate our country or to love it in such a zealous way that it's like, oh, like to be an American means I have to drive a pickup truck, wear cowboy boots,
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? It's like this kind
Yeah.
of like this obnoxious sort of over the top Americana that's too much country music and, or certain, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just become like, it's
Right.
like, oh, that's just, it doesn't need to be like that either. One of the things I love doing, like I love doing this, is taking an Uber. And I don't think I've ever taken an Uber where the driver wasn't from another country.
Okay.
And this happens fairly frequently for me, like when I use Uber whenever I travel. But I always say, I ask them, where are you from? What was it like growing up there?
Mm-hmm.
Why did you move to the United States of America?
Yeah.
And usually what I hear is, this is the way it was like in my country. There was never any opportunity to go anywhere. There just wasn't. The economic opportunity wasn't there. The political opportunity wasn't there. But America, wow. It's the home of dreams. It's the place where dreams can be realized. And then I always ask them, I said, okay, so has it turned out to be that way? And they look, I'm usually in the back. They look over the seat and they're like, totally. Like, look, I got my own business. I'm driving Uber. I got my own house.
Yeah.
Or my own apartment. And I'm raising my family. And I'm like, I hope you say this to everybody that drives with you. And then I
Yeah,
say,
or
what do you,
20 years later,
well, I
like
mean, maybe it changes. Yeah, I mean, you get assimilated, and your kids don't appreciate
yeah.
the sacrifice you made to come to this
We have
country.
very short memories.
Well, it's true. It's true. But I just love to get them to talk about it. And then the final question is what would you say to people who
They're
were born and raised here who
they're
complain about America?
they're probably like, "Who is this guy in my
I know.
back seat?"
Yeah. And they're no, I mean it's always a great conversation.
Yeah, I'm
like
sure.
they just
I'm
love talking
sure.
about this.
Yeah.
And they always say, I just don't understand.
Yeah.
I just cannot understand
Yeah,
why
yeah.
anybody would criticize this
Yeah.
country.
Yeah.
You have no idea how good you have it.
Sure.
And I love hearing that. I love hearing that because it's so true and it's a good reminder for me.
Yeah.
And because I can get spoiled too.
Oh, man.
I can complain about dumb things. And I'm listening to this person who's been here 15 years,
Yeah.
and they're not living some glorious life,
Right.
but it's like, they're driving an Uber.
Everybody needs to be like whenever somebody comes into our country, like there almost needs to be this like pairing up with like a long-standing American, because it is true that every friend that I know of who has come from a different country, like we have a friend who's from Poland, we have a woman that's a friend of ours whose family was from Cuba, and it's like, yeah, every single one of them says without fail, they're always like, it amazes me how critical, like how people hate America that are in America. They're like, you have no idea. You have no idea what it's like to live somewhere else. So it goes back to that idea that we are. I don't know how you get out of like how you get out of being spoiled. Like if you spoil somebody, is there a way to unspoil somebody? Because that is, I think generally that's even for myself.
Well,
Like
it's cultivating.
take it for granted. Like you live here long enough, and you become so anesthetized and sort of like drugged. In a way, you're drugged by the comfort that
Well, right. That's
that
exactly
we have.
it. And this is how do you do it? It's called gratitude.
Yeah.
The same thing happens, by the way, for cradle Catholics. Talk to a convert.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And when they tell you everything that they appreciate and love about our tradition, we just take it for granted, and our practice of our faith can become lackluster because we aren't sufficiently grateful for actually all that we have. And so I think we piety is expressed in one form in relationship to our parents, and that's actually technically the word we use is piety or honor.
Okay.
Honor. Piety towards God, honor towards our parents, patriotism. This is all part of the virtue of justice, by the way, what we owe, to those who provide for us.
Mm-hmm.
So we owe, to God, we owe the virtue, adoration and worship. And the primary form of worship that God has given to us is the Eucharist. It's thanksgiving. That is the form of prayer that God wants. Of our country, it's called patriotism. It's being grateful for all that our country provides for us and embracing that sense of responsibility of what little things can I do to make sure that my country is built up and the next generation has it better. But, and in the home, we have to talk about it. We have to take time to appreciate those things. And then, of course, in the home, the virtue of honoring, as children, honoring our parents and being grateful for all, that they do and never taking it for granted. So there's really only one anecdote to the problem of apathy and taking something for granted.
Yeah.
It's always taking time to really appreciate what we have and to celebrate it, to celebrate it like we would a birthday.
Yeah.
And it is like we're celebrating the birthday of our country here when this episode drops in a couple days. And we really should take the time to celebrate and make a point of it. I think sometimes it's all about the hot dogs, hamburgers, and fireworks. But do we stop and just think about the sacrifice, that people made create this nation and to hand on the values that we live by. One of the things that always like blows me away and inspires me is that I think I have this right, that George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, I think I got this right, they both died on the 4th of July.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the same day.
Huh.
And that's not an accident.
Yeah.
Like that's significant. And going back to John Adams too, John Adams, like one of the things I love about John Adams is that he was so against slavery from the beginning. And he was of all the founding fathers of this country, in my opinion, he was a saint. He was a saint. He was a very, very godly man. There's a great book called John Adams. That is a great book, and every American should read that book. It's incredible. John Adams was an amazing human being, and he, and I mean they were all great, but they weren't all as upright.
Yeah.
And he was upright all the way to the last detail, and that's, and I think it was very significant that, he is so prominent. He was so prominent at the beginning, but he had a lot of, I don't want to say enemies maybe, but opponents, because he wanted to take the principles all the way to their logical end from the beginning, and many people didn't, like Jefferson, like with slavery, for example.
Yeah.
But at any rate, just I throw that in. But those are like in the history of the world, when you think about people that at what price they would pay, in order to establish a country that was founded on this set of principles and ideas, in terms of freedom and constitutional government and the balance of power and all the little particular things they did to create a stable, representative form of government that would, create opportunity for everybody and create the conditions to allow the worst of us, the worst aspects of human nature to be kind of like dissipated and held at bay.
Yeah.
And it's a system that, despite all of our craziness, it's still working. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Do you see it? Going back to his quote, that our Constitution is made only for moral and religious people. Like, one, do you agree with that? And two, do you see it, like, how is that going to continue whenever it seems like our the values that we have we're moving very much away from that kind of identity?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we have been corroding and eroding and, chipping away at the moral fiber and fabric of this country for sure. And I do agree with this statement. That is, you can't self-govern without virtue. You have to be a virtuous people. And in order, civic virtue only goes so far. You have to have an ultimate grounding set of principles and a framework, and that's provided by, the basic contours of the Christian view of the human person. Like, there's no way. I mean, we never have created the kind of value system in any other kind of, way, in any other kind of like religious framework or philosophical framework. And ours is kind of a blending of both philosophy, the best of political philosophy, even going back into the ancient world with Aristotle and Plato, and the very best of, religious thinking coming together and forming the conditions of a nation that can, it's not perfect. It's not the perfect scenario that heaven will be, but it's in this life, it does the very best that we can do. And that's why, we have to continue to educate ourselves in those moral habits and those moral virtues that sustain a free society and a representative form of government. Because without the virtues, sin takes kind of the front seat.
Yeah.
And starts driving the direction of our country. And we've been seeing that more and more. And people want to push back on the variety, they want to push back on the virtues and on the morals and then complain that things aren't the way they used to be.
Yeah.
Well, you
yeah.
can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to, if you want the freedoms and you want the opportunity and you want the prosperity, you want the wealth, you want all of those good temporal things, you have to have the supernatural and spiritual grounding
Yeah.
of Christian values.
Yeah. I feel like
Even if you're not a Christian.
right. Yeah, speaking purely on behalf of people of Christian faith, like I feel like we are sort of in a, it's probably not, it might not even be the biggest epic struggle that, we've been in, but for me in my lifetime, it just feels like we are in kind of right now an epic struggle of, for virtue, for maintaining perspective, like remembering our history, all these kinds of things. It seems like we keep, like there's a group that's trying to continue to bring people, like, remember who you are, like.
Thanks, Mufasa.
Yeah. It's a great line, and it's true. Like, we're forgetting. Like, I said it earlier. We tend to be very short of memory, and it's like, if I feel like if we lose that, we're losing it all.
Yeah.
So that's
no,
kind
I
of
think
like,
I think it's absolutely true.
I just wanna party like it's 1776, man. That's what I want to
All
do.
right. Prince. Giving you all these nicknames today. Yeah. Well, I do too. I think it's a great, I do think the year of celebration will begin on July 4th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you have insights.
So, yeah, maybe
Trump called you up,
but
said,
I think,
"Hey, Mike."
no, I don't think that. I just think that makes sense. It's like a Jubilee year
Yeah.
in the church, and we do the
Okay.
same thing. But yeah, no, I think it's a great opportunity as a people for us to remember who we are and remember the values that have made us who we are as a nation, and a great nation at that, and to double down on, leaning into those values and handing them on,
Yeah.
to our
Yeah.
children, and helping, tell the great stories of the great things that this
Yeah.
country has done over the past 250 years. And honestly, that's the official birth date, but
Mm-hmm.
there were people here for hundreds of years prior to that who
Yeah.
were laying the foundation for this nation in all of their courage,
Yeah.
So
I
we need
feel-
to do the same.
Yeah. I feel like the best way to honor that is for Preambula to just take a week off.
I suppose we could. I'll have to think about that.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Take that.
Yeah.
Take that to prayer.
Maybe I'll bring sparklers in instead.
Okay.
We'll do some firecrackers in the parking lot.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyhow, all right. Well, happy birthday to America. Hopefully, this episode was helpful in getting you to just maybe stop and pause and think about all the wonderful things that we can be grateful for as Americans, all the things that we might take for granted and shouldn't. So we hope you have a wonderful celebration of the 4th of July this year in the 250th year of our nation. And if you like this episode, be sure to share it with your friends. And if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button and leave us your comments if you have any. All right, take care.
See ya.
The Wise Guys Podcast is a production of Preambula Group, a Catholic ministry dedicated to helping you thrive in the heart of Jesus. Visit us on the web at preambula.org and follow us on social media.